the devotees celebrated the Gundicha Marjanam, where they cleansed the Gundicha temple. Afterward, with no provocation, Lord Chaitanya said to Rupa Goswami, "Do not try to take Krishna out of Vrindavan." That Yadu Kumar and Sri Nandanandana, they may be the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are in different moods. Krishna, in his original form of Sri Nandanandana, never leaves Vrindavan to go anywhere else. You should write separate dramas. When Rupa Goswami heard this, he understood that Lord Chaitanya, who was the all-pervading, all-cognition supersoul in everyone's heart, was confirming what Satyabhama had already said. Some days after that was the Ratha Yatra, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of his devotees from both Orissa and Bengal were gathered together to celebrate the beautiful procession of Balaram, Subhadra and Jagannath through the main street of Puri, from Jagannath Mandir to Gundicha Mandir. And as the Ratha Yatra was taking place, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became immersed in the ecstatic love of Srimati Radharani in separation from Krishna. The same spirit of devotional ecstasy that Srimati Radharani experienced when she met Lord Krishna in Kurukshetra after years and years of separation was being manifested by Lord Chaitanya. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita explains in extraordinary detail the intricacies of the reciprocations between Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Sri Radharani and Lord Jagannath during the parade. During that parade, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was expressing his own heart in a prayer which no one except Swarup Damodar Goswami could understand. And that prayer was, that very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights in the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire. This is a prayer that appears to be the expression of an ordinary boy who is in love with an ordinary girl. And as Lord Chaitanya was singing this prayer, devotees could not understand. But after seeing the wonderful dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and contemplating the nectar of this prayer, Srila Rupa Goswami wrote a commentary on that prayer by writing another verse, explaining it very clearly what Lord Chaitanya's heart was experiencing. He wrote this on a palm leaf, and then he put it in the roof of the thatched hut of Haridas Thakur, where he lived, and then he went to the ocean to take his bath. While he was away, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to visit Srila Rupa Goswami, who was not there, but Lord Chaitanya saw this palm leaf in his roof, and he took it and read it. The contents we will read as follows. This is a verse spoken by Srimati Radharani. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna in this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but still I would like to go to the bank of the Jamuna, beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibrations of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within the forest of Vrindavan. When Lord Chaitanya read this, he became filled with ecstasy of love of God. His ecstasy was beyond his control. And just when he was experiencing this nectar, Srila Rupa Goswami returned and offered his obeisances at Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. And Lord Chaitanya, in great love, he picked up Rupa Goswami and mildly slapped him. He said, How did you understand the innermost intentions of my mind? Rupa Goswami did not speak anything. Then Lord Chaitanya took that palm leaf and went back to his own residence, the Gambhira. And he showed it to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And when Swarup Damodar Goswami read it, he was struck with wonder. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, how does he know the innermost feelings of my heart? Swarup Damodar Goswami replied, I can understand that you have bestowed your causeless mercy upon him, and that has empowered him to do so. Lord Chaitanya said, yes. When I met Rupa Goswami at Prayag, and I witnessed his wonderful, wonderful, humble qualities, I embraced him. And upon embracing him, I invested within him my own power of love. I saw him as a fit candidate to reveal to the world the transcendental mysteries of Vrindavan and Krishna consciousness. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami, please, you instruct him in more and more details about Krishna consciousness. Another day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually, the 4 months of the rainy season had passed, and all of the Bengali devotees returned to their respective services. But Srila Rupa Goswami stayed in Puri and intimately associated with Lord Chaitanya and all of the devotees. One day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Srila Rupa Goswami's kutir, and he sat down with them, and he asked Rupa Goswami, what book are you writing? Then Lord Chaitanya picked up a palm leaf that Srila Rupa Goswami had just written on. Lord Chaitanya held it up, and when he saw that palm leaf, he was struck with great pleasure to see the handwriting of Rupa Goswami. He said, the handwriting of Srila Rupa Goswami is like rows of pearls. Then he read the verse. He read it out loud. I do not know how much nectar the 2 syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna dances on the tongue, I desire many tongues. And when it enters into the ears, I desire millions and millions of ears. And when that holy name enters into my heart, It conquers my life and my senses become inert. As Lord Chaitanya read that verse, Srila Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya, was filled with bliss. He started screaming out and dancing in transcendental ecstasy. He had never heard such a glorification of the holy name. Haridas was dancing and loudly crying out the holy names of Krishna. After showering his blessings on Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya departed. The next day, Lord Chaitanya met with Ramananda Rai, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and other of his most intimate, most learned associates. And he took them all to Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur's residence. As he was walking with these devotees, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying Srila Rupa Goswami as if he had 5 mouths. The devotees were in so much bliss hearing the Lord glorify his devotees. When they all arrived, Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur fell and offered their obeisances at the lotus feet of all these Vaishnavas, and the devotees embraced them. They gave Lord Chaitanya and his intimate associates an elevated seat, and then they sat on a lower platform. And Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Rai, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they were saying, please sit with us. But Rupa and Haridas said, no, we are too fallen. We are only your servants. We do not deserve. Lord Chaitanya asked Srila Rupa Goswami to read, for the pleasure of all the devotees, that beautiful verse that he had found in the roof that day on the palm leaf. Rupa Goswami was too humble and embarrassed to read it. Again and again, Lord Chaitanya and the devotees said, please read that verse. But due to embarrassment of his natural humility, he could not read it. So then Lord Chaitanya gave it to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And he read the verse. The verse of Srimati Radharani speaking to her friend, expressing her mood of separation from Vrindavan in her meeting with Lord Krishna in the field of Kurukshetra. Upon hearing this wonderful, wonderful composition of Srila Rupa Goswami, all the devotees began to celebrate his good fortune. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on this particular day, established one of the most important historical incidents within our sampradaya. He had the most proficient, advanced, and intimate of his associates testing Rupa Goswami in his literary works. Srila Ramananda Rai, actually after saying this verse, Lord Chaitanya turned to Ramananda Rai and said, how is it that Rupa Goswami could understand what is in my heart? And Ramananda Rai said, it is because you have bestowed your mercy on him. He said, you did the same thing to me. When we met on the bank of the Godavari in Vidyanagar, you spoke so many elevated topics of the loving relations of Radha and Krishna through my mouth by your mercy. Lord Chaitanya agreed that I have given my heart's full mercy to Rupa Goswami to reveal to the world my inner desire. Then Srila Ramananda Rai began to test Rupa Goswami. He asked him, because he's a great poet, please read to us your introductory verse. And Rupa Goswami read beautiful verse comparing the sweetness of Krishna and his name and pastimes to the most ambrosial sweetmeats, shikarani. And he was just desiring that all loving, all beautiful reservoir of all sweetness, Krishna, to bestow his blessings on all. Ramananda Rai continued to ask him many, very, very technical, intricate questions about Rupa Goswami's writings. And every time Rupa Goswami would answer, the devotees would be in bliss. Then Lord Chaitanya said, Rupa, please read that sloka which diminishes the unhappiness, which destroys the unhappiness of all living beings when they hear the verse. But again, Rupa Goswami was ashamed to read it. But after being coaxed again and again, he read that verse that Lord Chaitanya loved so dearly. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When that name dances on the tongue, I desire many tongues. And when that name of Krishna enters my ears, I desire millions and millions of ears. When that name through the ears enters into my heart, it conquers my heart and my sensors become inert. Upon hearing this, all of the assembled devotees, they began to celebrate. We have never ever heard from all the scriptures any verse that so sweetly describes the glories of the holy name as what Rupa Goswami has composed. Lord Chaitanya, after Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, was the greatest of all philosophers. Ramananda Rai was the greatest of all authorities in the transcendental ras of the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Swarup Damodar Goswami was the greatest of all scholars of proper Vaishnav composition of what is rasa bas and what is authoritative on the basis of scripture. Haridas Thakur was the Namacharya, the greatest authority of the chanting of the holy name. All these devotees were assembled. After all of them heard the writings of Rupa Goswami, they all unanimously agreed that he has received the most intimate blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Rai asked, please read the verse of your glorifying your worshipable deity. And Rupa Goswami read the beautiful verse, how the Supreme Lord Krishna has appeared from the womb of Sachi Devi to distribute to all the world the most intimate mellows of Vrindavan love of the gopis. May that Lord bestow his mercy on all of us. When he heard that verse, Lord Chaitanya became very angry externally, although internally he was very happy. He said, what have you done? Your composition is like an ocean of nectar. And this verse is like a drop of poisonous alkaline, which has ruined everything. Srila Ramananda Rai said, no, my Lord, it is not like that. His verses are like highly condensed milk, an ocean of nectar, and this is like a pinch of camphor to enhance the ecstatic pleasure. Lord Chaitanya was embarrassed, but the devotees were very pleased. After hearing and examining Srila Rupa Goswami, Ramananda Rai said, this is not poetry. This is a continuous shower of nectar. And then Lord Chaitanya asked all of those assembled devotees to bless and empower Srila Rupa Goswami to fill the world with literature describing the pure teachings of Krishna Prema and Krishna consciousness. And all of the devotees bestowed their mercy on Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami was often called the Ras Acharya. On that day it was proclaimed that Srila Rupa Goswami was the very embodiment, the personification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's love and mercy. And therefore we are all called Rupanugas. Srila Rupa Goswami remained in Jagannath Puri with Lord Chaitanya for 10 months. After the Dola Yatra festival, Lord Chaitanya sent him to perform his 4 important missions in Vrindavan. He embraced Rupa Goswami and told Rupa Goswami to receive the mercy of all the devotees. After worshipping each and every Vaishnava and worshipping Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami returned to Vrindavan. On his way, he stopped in Bengal for 12 months, where he continued to, he completed his obligations of dividing his wealth, as we have explained before. Meanwhile, 10 days after Rupa Goswami left Puri, Sanatana Goswami arrived, traveling through the Jarikhanda forest. Lord Chaitanya told Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami just left. They were always trying to meet, but by the mercy of the Lord, somehow or other, they were always on different roads. When Srila Rupa Goswami returned to Vrindavan, after some time, finally, after some years, he met with Srila Sanatana Goswami. Both Rupa and Sanatana Goswami brought many, many, many scriptures to Vrindavan with them, because their service to Lord Chaitanya was to extract the nectar of devotion from each of those scriptures. The way they lived in Vrindavan was so perfect and exemplary. When the devotees of Bengal would go to Vrindavan or Orissa, and then when they would return, the first question everyone would ask is, did you see Rupa and Sanatana? How are they living? Where are they sleeping? What are they eating? Please tell us, what are their activities? And these devotees would become so filled with bliss just thinking of Rupa and Sanatana, that they are living in Vrindavan. They have no fixed residence. They have left the huge, beautiful palaces of the prime ministers with so many servants and so much treasure, luxuries of life. Now they have no fixed residence. They sleep under one tree one night and under a different tree another night, on the hard, cold ground of Vrindavan. And they go begging for their food from door to the houses of Brahmins. And sometimes they get some dry bread, and sometimes some fried chickpeas. They have no other possessions except one water pot. And as far as their clothes, they have given up all of their luxurious garments, and they only wore torn, discarded quilts. practically 24 hours a day. They are chanting the holy names and they are dancing in ecstasy. In fact, they are so much immersed in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord that at the most they sleep 1.5 hours a day. And on some days they're so engrossed in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they don't even find time to sleep even that. They are absorbed in writing transcendental literatures, expounding the pure teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And their hearts are always absorbed in the remembrance of the Lord and discussing the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is how how Rupa and Sanatana Goswami are living in Vrindavan. Upon hearing these explanations, which are beyond human capacity, everyone would become filled with bliss, honoring and worshipping the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sanatana within the cores of their hearts. Srila Rupa Goswami was so completely committed to fulfilling the orders that Lord Chaitanya had given him. He and Sanatana roamed throughout Vrindavan, and they revealed and excavated so many of the holy places of Krishna's important pastimes. But still, Rupa Goswami was not happy. One day, he sat on the bank of the Jamuna in an ocean of lamentation, because the scriptures revealed that the prominent deity of Vrindavan, Sri Govindadev, was installed by Vajranabh, the great-grandson of Lord Krishna. And somewhere in Vrindavan he was. Rupa Goswami was searching everywhere. He was studying so many books. He was desperately looking for the Govinda deity, because he knew it was Lord Chaitanya's desire. He was going here, there. He even went to the houses of practically all the Brijabasis to see if Govindadev was being worshipped in any of them. But despite all of his attempts, Govindadev had not revealed himself. Rupa Goswami day after day would sit on the bank of the Jamuna in lamentation, praying to the Lord, please reveal to me where you are hiding. On one day, a Brijbasi came and sat beside Rupa Goswami. This Brijbasi was a beautiful cowherd boy. He asked Rupa Goswami, why do you look so sad? Rupa Goswami was so attracted by the beauty and the charm of this child. His heart was filled with ecstasy. And he began to explain that I have searched everywhere, but I cannot fulfill my Lord's desire to establish the worship of Govindadev. The little cowherd boy replied, do not be in distress. There is a very spiritual place called Gomatil. And every day, a beautiful cow comes to that place and lets down her milk on the ground. Under the ground where that cow is making that offering is the deity of Govindadev. Previously, Muslim conquerors came to this place and the deity was hidden under the ground. Come and I will show you that place. And the beautiful little cowherd boy took Srila Rupa Goswami to Gomatil. And then the cowherd boy disappeared. And Rupa Goswami understood who this cowherd boy was. And in great ecstasy of love, he fell unconscious. After a long time, he came back to his consciousness and began to cry. Then he understood his mission, and he went and called for several Brijbasis and told them, let us carefully dig in this place. Govinda Dev is here. The Brijbasis came, and they carefully began to dig in the ground. After some time, they unearthed the beautiful deity of Govinda, whose beauty was more charming than millions and millions of Kandharpas. The news spread, and hundreds and thousands of people, and mostly Brijbasis, they all gathered there to celebrate the appearance of Sri Govinda Dev. When the news spread, Srila Rupa Goswami became so much admired, loved, and worshipped by all of the Brijbasis of Sri Brijadham. On another evening or night, Srila Rupa Goswami had a dream. In this dream, Brinda Devi, who is an expansion of Srimati Radharani, and who is the transcendental coordinator of all of the wonderful, wonderful arrangements for the pastimes of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, she appeared to Rupa Goswami and told him that my deity form is under the ground at Brahmakund. Rupa Goswami, he understood that Lord Chaitanya was instructing him to excavate that place. And he approached the Brijbasis, and on the banks of Radha Kund, the Murti of Brinda Devi was revealed, whose beauty was indescribable. Srila Rupa Goswami installed the deity of Brinda Devi in the same temple as Govinda Dev. He was so satisfied. He sent a letter to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explaining how Govinda Dev had revealed himself to him. When Lord Chaitanya heard that Radha, Sri Sri Radha Govinda had appeared again, he was in ecstasy. He confidentially spoke to all of his devotees about this. And one of his devotees, Kashishwar Pandit, who was previously a personal servant of Lord Chaitanya's own guru, Ishwara Puri, he told Kashishwar Pandit about the discovery of Govinda Dev. And he told him, I want you to go to Vrindavan and I want you to assist Rupa Goswami in the service of Govinda Dev. Kashishwar Pandit, his heart was broken with the thought of separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, my Lord, I cannot bear leaving Puri and going anywhere else. But then Lord Chaitanya, just to satisfy his devotee, he gave Kashishwar Pandit a beautiful small deity of himself. This was the first deity of Lord Chaitanya ever to be revealed in this world. Besides the deity of Vishnupriya, it was a deity of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya together in one form. And Lord Chaitanya explained how Kashishwar Pandit should worship it very carefully. And Lord Chaitanya personally gave him the name Gaur Govinda. Kashishwar Pandit took that deity to Vrindavan and installed him right on the right-hand side of Sri Govinda Dev. When Rupa and Sanatana Goswami came to Vrindavan, two of the very, very confidential associates of Lord Chaitanya were already living there. Srila Lokanath Goswami and Srila Bhugarbha Goswami. Srila Lokanath Goswami was a resident of Navadvip and a very, very loving friend of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya understood that when he takes sannyas, Lokanath Goswami will not be able to bear the pain of seeing his hair cut from his body in the garb of a sannyasi. So he ordered Lokanath Goswami to go to Vrindavan, because soon I'm going to take sannyas. You will not be able to bear seeing it. But after taking sannyas, I will go to Vrindavan, and you can make nice arrangements for me there. So falling at the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees, Lokanath Goswami, with tears of the ecstasy of separation filling his heart, he went to Vrindavan. But as you know, Lord Chaitanya, after he took sannyas, he had every intention to go to Vrindavan. But Sri Nityananda, knowing that Mahaprabhu's heart was always to please his devotees, played a trick and brought him to Shantipur instead. And then Sachi Devi prayed to Lord Chaitanya, please do not go to Vrindavan, because I will never hear anything of your pastimes or your welfare. The same Krishna of Vrindavan is living in Puri as Jagannath. Please make that your home. On the request of the intimate love of Sachi Devi, Lord Chaitanya went to Jagannath Puri. And after delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he decided he would go on a tour of South India. Lokanath Goswami was waiting for Lord Chaitanya in Vrindavan. When he heard all these stories, he became mad. I have to find my Lord. If he's not coming to Vrindavan, I will go to the south. Now, it's not that he got on Indian Airlines or Jet Airlines or Indian Railways. If you wanted to go somewhere, you had to walk. So from Vrindavan, he walked all the way to the southernmost provinces of India. And then he found out that Lord Chaitanya had returned to Puri. He completed his 2-year trip of South India. Then he began to return to Puri. But there he heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Puri had gone to Vrindavan. So in great anticipation, he went to Vrindavan. He was supposed to be there waiting for Lord Chaitanya. And when he arrived in Vrindavan, he learned that Lord Chaitanya, he stayed here for 2 months. He traveled through all the 12 forests. He sat to chant under the Imli Chal tree on the bank of the Ganges every day. He was reunited with all of his intimate associates, the deers and the parrots and the peacocks and the trees and the creepers and the cows of Vrindavan. But he has left and gone to Prayag. It was night, and Lokanath Goswami decided, tomorrow morning I will go to Prayag. That night, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him and told him, you should remain in Vrindavan because I am sending my own personal associates, Rupa and Sanatan, to come and you should become intimate friends with them. So Lokanath Goswami, after wandering through the groves of Vrindavan, he came to a place called Kishori Kund, which is in the area of Kadiravan. And there he lived in seclusion. One day, a Brahmin came to him with a little bag and gave him the bag and went away. And Lokanath Goswami opened the bag. There was beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna. He was so much struck with wonder and love. He always wanted to worship the deity of Krishna. So he began to worship the Lord, but he was so bewildered. And then the deity spoke to him. He said, "My name is Radha Vinod, and I incarnated as that Brahmin just to give the gift of myself to you. Now I am hungry, so please prepare some bhoga for me." So Lokanath Goswami immediately began to collect whatever he could get and cooked very nice and offered it to the deity. And he bathed the deity, and he would make a beautiful little bed for the deity out of flowers, and he would lay the deity down and massage his feet and fan him. His life and soul was simply the worship of Radha Vinod in Kishori Kund. When Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis came to Vrindavan, they called Lokanath Goswami, "Please, come and live with us in Vrindavan. Together let us hear and chant the glories of Radha Krishna and their most munificent of all manifestations of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." So Lokanath Goswami came to Vrindavan and daily would intimately associate with Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. The next Goswami that came to meet with Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami was Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. When Lord Chaitanya was performing his South Indian tour and he came to the holy place of Sri Rangam, he stayed at the house of Venkata Bhatta for the 4 months of the rainy season. When he arrived, Venkata Bhatta bathed the Lord's feet and gave it to his family members to drink. The son of Venkata Bhatta was Gopal Bhatta. When he drank that water, his heart filled with the ecstasy of love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopal Bhatta Goswami intimately served Lord Chaitanya during that entirety of the 4 months. And before Lord Chaitanya continued his tour, he instructed Gopal Bhatta Goswami that you stay here and serve your parents, who are my pure devotees. And after they leave this world, you should go to Vrindavan and you should join with Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. He became initiated by his uncle, Prabodhananda Saraswati, and became a great, great famous scholar and devotee. Venkata Bhatta and his wife, they told Gopal Bhatta, go to Vrindavan and always worship Lord Chaitanya. Then chanting the names of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, they both departed from this world. Gopal Bhatta Goswami came to Vrindavan. And when he arrived, Rupa and Sanatan and Lokanath Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami were so happy to receive this great soul. Lord Chaitanya, one day he was at the Tota Gopinath temple of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. And he told the devotees there that I have not heard any news from the devotees in Vrindavan for a long time. Just at that moment, a messenger came from Vrindavan with a letter from Rupa Goswami. And it said, your beloved devotee Gopal Bhatta Goswami has come. And we are so happy to have his most divine association. Lord Chaitanya was so pleased. He wrote a letter back to Rupa and Sanatan and said, please accept Gopal Bhatta as your own dear brother. And he sent many wonderful gifts of his own remnants to be distributed to the Goswamis. Gopal Bhatta Goswami lived with Sri Rupa and Sanatan. Who can understand the intimacy of the love of their friendship? Srila Sanatan Goswami, he wrote the Hari Bhakti Vilas, but he wanted Gopal Bhatta Goswami's name to be on it. Asked Gopal Bhatta Goswami to perform the most intimate service of editing and embellishing his literature. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi, the son of Tapan Mishra was Radhanath Bhatta Goswami. Radhanath Bhatta was just a small boy. And when Lord Chaitanya was living in Varanasi for 2 months, Radhanath Bhatta would every day massage his lotus feet and do all menial services for Lord Chaitanya. He became such a dear servant of the Lord. After some time, Radhanath Bhatta could not bear the separation, and he went to Puri, along with Ramdas Vishwas. When he arrived in Puri, Lord Chaitanya so affectionately embraced him at his Gambhira, asked the welfare of Tapan Mishra, and he allowed Gopal Bhatta to personally serve him for 8 months. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was such an expert cook. Srila Prabhupada explained, Radhanath Bhatta Goswami, he was such an expert cook that Chaitanya Charitamrita says everything he prepared tasted more sweet than nectar. He would cook for the Lord, massage the feet of the Lord, intimately hear the wonderful instructions of the Lord. After 8 months, Lord Chaitanya told him to go back home. He said, do not marry. Hare Krishna. You go home, you serve your mother and father who are pure devotees, and you constantly chant the holy names of Lord Krishna, and constantly read the Srimad Bhagavatam and study the teachings of the Bhagavat under a pure devotee of the Lord. Radhanath Bhatta Goswami returned to Varanasi, and he lived there for 2 years. During that 2 years, he was constantly chanting the holy names, always studying Bhagavatam from a pure devotee, and humbly serving his parents. Then his parents gave up their life breath and returned back home, back to Godhead. Radhanath Bhatta Goswami, in great anticipation for the mercy of Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, he returned to Puri. There he served the Lord very intimately for 8 months again, at which time Lord Chaitanya told him, go to Vrindavan, and under the care of Sri Rupa and Sanatan you serve me. Constantly chant the holy names, read the Bhagavatam, and serve these great devotees' mission. When Radhanath Bhatta Goswami arrived in Vrindavan, Rupa, Sanatan, Gopal Bhatta, Lokanath, Bhugarbha, Kashishwar Pandit, they were in great, great ecstasy to receive. it is explained that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would cook for Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and give them great pleasure. He personally served as his life and soul the deity of Rupa Goswami, Sri Sri Radha Govinda. And day and night he would be in the association of Rup Sanatan, reciting the beautiful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, his voice was sweet like the cuckoo bird. And he would recite each verse in 3 or 4 different melodies. They lived together in transcendental happiness. Raghunath Das Goswami, he was the son of a multi-millionaire, Govardhan and Hiranya Manjumudar, but he somehow or other escaped and left his beautiful wife, his inconceivable fortune, all of his fame and position, and became the very king of renunciation amongst all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. He lived in Puri, only eating what the cows would spit out in the garbage. Later on, he would only eat a little pat of buttermilk, and after drinking that, he would condemn himself for wasting so much time for sense gratification. He was chanting at least 2 lakhs of the holy names a day. He would bow down as a regulation to thousands of Vaishnavas every day. He would bow down thousands of times to the deity every day. It is explained that his following of regulative principles were like the lines in stone. So strict. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally put Raghunath Das Goswami as the assistant of Swarup Damodar Goswami, his own secretary. So Raghunath Das Goswami was intimately connected to all the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya during those years of separation. He remained in Jagannath Puri for 16 years. And then Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the world by entering the Tota Gopinath temple at the residence of Gadadhar Pandit. And very soon after that, Swarup Damodar Goswami, unable to bear the separation from his Lord, also disappeared from the world. Raghunath Das Goswami was plunged in an ocean of grief. What to do? How will I live? I cannot. He decided to take his life in the most auspicious way by going to Vrindavan and by jumping from the top of Govardhan Hill. He went to Vrindavan with this conviction. But when he arrived, he wanted to first meet Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami. But when he met them, he was thinking that I was engrossed in a hopeless state due to separation from my Swarup Damodar and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But now I see that Lord Chaitanya has appeared in his full mercy and glory in the form of these 2 devotees, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Rupa and Sanatana told him, you cannot jump from Govardhan Hill. Rather, you stay and live with us. And you constantly sing the glories of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes for our purification. So Raghunath Das Goswami became the intimate servant of Rupa and Sanatana. And they personally arranged a place for him to stay on the beautiful banks of Sri Radha Kund and Shama Kund, which Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had discovered during his visit to Vrindavan. Anupam, the youngest brother, had a son who was Srila Jiva Goswami. When Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, along with Anupam, met Lord Chaitanya at Ramakeli, Jiva was very small, so he was not permitted to come. However, he wanted to see what his father and uncles were so eager to do. So he followed them. And as Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and Anupam met with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Ramakeli and offered beautiful prayers and surrendered their lives, Jiva Goswami from a little distance away was watching and listening to everything. And from that moment his heart was filled with love and surrender to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After Anupam disappeared from this world, and his uncles, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, had gone to Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami was like a little madman, or mad boy. He would just, in great ecstasy, he would just serve his deities of Krishna, Balaram, Gaur Tai, revealed in a dream that they were non-different from the deities of Krishna and Balaram. And when he just got old enough, he somehow or other found an excuse to get away from his mother with the plea that he was going to visit their ancestral home in Faityabad. But actually he went to Navadvip, and there he met Lord Chaitanya. Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Nityananda Prabhu took him on the whole parikram of Navadvip Mandal and then told him to go to Varanasi and study the Shastra under a great devotee named Madhusudan Vachaspati, and then go to Vrindavan to join your uncles Rupa and Sanatan. Nityananda Prabhu said, Lord Chaitanya has given Vrindavan to your family. Jiva Goswami went to Varanasi and became famous as the greatest of all scholars. And then he came to Vrindavan. When he came, he fell at the feet of Srila Sanatana Goswami and begged him for initiation. Sanatana Goswami, in his natural humility, considered Rupa Goswami was more qualified. So he told Jiva Goswami that he should take initiation from Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami wanted to train Jiva Goswami very nicely. So he had him doing very simple menial types of service. Jiva Goswami was already celebrated as one of the greatest scholars and preachers in all the world. However, Rupa Goswami had him cleaning up utensils, washing pots, preparing the paraphernalia for puja, collecting and preparing the palm leaves for Rupa Goswami to write on. He would massage Rupa Goswami's legs and feet. He would fan him. Very simple services. And after some time of seeing the real qualification of humility and a desire to serve, Rupa Goswami initiated Srila Jiva Goswami. It is explained that one day Jiva Goswami was fanning his Guru Maharaj, Srila Rupa Goswami. And that very senior Vaishnav, Balabha Bhatta, came to meet with Rupa Goswami. As you know, Rupa Goswami knew Balabhabata from Prayag. And Rupa Goswami, so humble, seeing that he was a very senior Vaishnava, offered him all respect and honor. And Balabhabata wanted to see what type of writings he was engaged in. And he saw introduction for Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And in a mood of concern, Sri Balabhabata explained that there was an incorrect usage of words. So Rupa Goswami, very grateful for his willingness to help, he gave him the literature that he was writing and said, "You please make any corrections you feel are required." And Rupa Goswami went to take bath in Jamuna. And Balabhabata asked the boy, Jiva, "Who are you?" He said, "I am Rupa Goswami's disciple, Jiva Goswami. Please tell me, what is it that you thought was not right about my Guru Maharaj's introduction?" So he explained, and Jiva Goswami very nicely, he explained how actually what his Guru said was correct. But he said it in such a proficient philosophical way that Balabhacharya was very impressed. And when Rupa Goswami came back, Balabhacharya gave him Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu back, the draft. He said, "How can I correct this? When even your disciple is so learned, how much you must be so exalted." Then Balabhacharya left. And Rupa Goswami became externally very angry. He said, "Jiva, why you have done like this? He's a senior Vaishnava. He has come to do some seva. Why you are so proud that you had to correct him?" Pride cannot remain in the heart of one who desires to live in Vrindavan properly. Therefore you must leave. So Jiva Goswami went to a place called Nandaghat. And there he lived in a hole where crocodiles used to live. And he was just always immersed in a repentant mood, trying to atone for the offense he had committed to his Guru Maharaj. Loudly chanting the holy names of the Lord and hardly eating anything. One day when Sanatana Goswami was traveling throughout Brajbhumi, he came to the village close to Nandaghat, and the villagers told him about a very, very supernaturally renounced person living in this hole. And Sanatana Goswami came there, and he personally had to carry Jiva Goswami out, and he brought him back to Vrindavan. And he told Rupa Goswami, because Sanatana was older brother, he said, "It is Lord Chaitanya's cardinal principle to be compassionate to all jivas, so you should forgive your disciple Jiva." Another similar story took place. There was a great Digvijay Pandit of the name Rupa Narayan. He traveled all over the various provinces of India, and he defeated everyone in debate. Then he came to Vrindavan, and he had a certificate where everyone he defeated had to sign, "I have been defeated by Rupa Narayan." It was called a Vijay Patra. He went to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, said, "I challenge you to debate." Rupa and Sanatana were very humble. They said, "You are such a big scholar. We are just living in the forest. How could we debate with you? Why should you even waste your time with us? We admit defeat. If you admit defeat, then sign this document." They immediately, without hesitation, they signed. "We have been defeated by Rup Narayan," signed by Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. He was very, very proud. But he understood that Jiva Goswami, their nephew, was also a great scholar, and he should defeat him also. So Rup Narayan went to Jiva Goswami and said, "I have defeated your uncles in debate. See, they have signed defeat." He considered, my uncles are such humble devotees. They didn't even argue with him. They didn't want to waste their time with this rascal. But he's now propagating all over the world that he has defeated them. He must be silenced. Yes, I accept your challenge. They sat on the bank of the Jamuna debating for many days, and in the end, Jiva Goswami completely defeated Rupa Narayan, who left in shame, never to come back to Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami told the news to Srila Rupa Goswami, and once again Srila Rupa Goswami became very angry. "Why you wasted your time arguing with this mundane scholar just for your own prestige and victory? Vrindavan has no place for a person who wants respect and adoration. Therefore, you must leave. You are not fit to stay here with us." So Jiva Goswami went to Mathura, and he lived there in a little kutir. And in his heart he was thinking, "I am so proud. I am so puffed up. My guru is displeased. How can I atone? What kind of disciple is this?" Actually, he made no offense on either occasion. Jiva Goswami, in great humility, was just trying to defend the prestige and the glory of his Guru Maharaj and the respectability of our whole sampradaya. Therefore, what he did was perfect, and Sri Rupa Goswami knew that. But Rupa Goswami wanted to reveal the world the glories of Jiva Goswami. Even though he was 100% right when his guru said he was proud, he considered, "Yes, I am proud and I am condemned." He did not make excuses. "Oh, Guru Maharaj, you are wrong. You don't understand. I did it for you, not for me." His Guru Maharaj said, "You are proud." Jiva Goswami, to the core of his heart, he felt, "I am proud. I am not fit to live in Vrindavan. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. I am not following the principles of Mahaprabhu. Therefore my life is ruined." And he went to Mathura to perform tapasya, crying out the holy name of Krishna constantly, crying out the names of Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, begging for their mercy. And Sanatana Goswami came to Mathura and found him. And he brought him back. And he told Srila Rupa Goswami, "I would like you to know that you are not following one of the important teachings of Lord Chaitanya." Now Rupa Goswami was also an ocean of humility. He did not say, "What do you mean? I'm following." Rupa Goswami said, "Oh, please tell me which one I am not following." Sanatana Goswami said, "Please, you speak. What are the principal teachings?" Developing a taste for the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, always aspiring to be the servant of the Vaishnavas, and being compassionate to all jivas. When Rupa Goswami said being compassionate to all jivas, he understood what Sanatan was saying. And Sanatan brought Jiva back, and Rupa Goswami embraced him very affectionately. Actually, through all these beautiful pastimes, Rupa Goswami was showing his most infinite love to Jiva Goswami. So much Rupa Goswami loved Srila Jiva Goswami that Rupa Goswami, with his own hands, he personally carved the deity of Sri Radha Damodar, worshipped that deity, and then entrusted it to Srila Jiva Goswami to worship as his life and soul. When Sri Jiva Goswami would worship Sri Radha Damodar, his mind was always constantly immersed in the deepest love and gratitude to Srila Rupa Goswami. It is explained that Srila Jiva Goswami's heart was always meditating on serving and pleasing Sri Rupa Goswami, his Guru Maharaj. And by the mercy of Rupa Goswami, when he would worship Radha Damodar, sometimes he would see the deity performing his Vrindavan pastimes right before his eyes. He would hear him playing on his flute. One day, Srila Sanatana Goswami was coming back from Govardhan Hill, and he came to meet Srila Rupa Goswami. The Goswamis would always discuss their beautiful writings of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So Rupa Goswami, upon Sanatana's request, began to explain one of his dramas. And in this drama, Rupa Goswami compared the beautiful braids of the luxurious black hair of Sri Radharani and the gopis to be like black serpents. So Sanatana Goswami, he said that this is not a perfect explanation. And you should change it to some other analogy. Then Sanatana Goswami left and went to take bath in one of the holy places of Vrindavan, a small lake. And there he saw some beautiful, beautiful young girls taking their bath in the lake. And they had long black braids in their hair. And these braids looked just like snakes. In fact, Sanatana Goswami thought they were snakes. And he started calling out to the girls, "Watch out, watch out! There's snakes about to bite your heads! Watch out!" And then Sanatana Goswami very quickly began to move through the waters to rescue these girls from these snakes. And when he just approached the girls, they began to laugh and smile, and they disappeared. Sanatana Goswami understood that Rupa Goswami's explanation was correct. And he came back to Rupa Goswami and said, "Please do not change. What you have said is perfect." Another time, Srila Rupa Goswami desired to make a nice feast for Sanatana Goswami. But they were just doing madhukar. How many of you have done madhukar? That means like a bee. Like a bee goes flower to get little nectar. Similarly, traditionally those in the renounced order of life, they go from house to house and they beg something little from each house for their sustenance. And in Vrindavan, it is a place that's very poor. Actually, for almost a year, I did Madhukari in Vrindavan. And all I ever got was some dry rotis and sometimes a little dal. Nothing else. No one will give you anything else. But then Srila Prabhupada came with ISKCON devotees in a big bus. They were staying in Sharaf Bhavan, 1971. And I was thinking, oh, Prabhupada has come. Let me go and stay with him while he's here. So I stayed as long as he was there. I would sleep on the bank of the Jamuna and then come to the place. And every day he would give Bhagavatam class, and then he would take devotees to all the holy places of Vrindavan and explain the parikram of the various holy spots. And then we would come back in the afternoon, and there would be lunch. I was shocked. There was sabji. And there was butter on the rotis, sometimes even ghee. And there was chutneys and jalebis and laddu and kheer every day. I was thinking, two things were going on in my mind. One is, what kind of sadhus are this? And the other was, this is wonderful prasad. Why should I ever leave this place? Anyways, I left. So, Rupa Goswami was thinking, let me make something nice as a feast for my brother Sanatana Goswami, after offering to Radha Govinda. So, a beautiful, beautiful little girl, a cowherd girl, approached Rupa Goswami and had all wonderful pot of kheer and said, I would like to present this to you, Goswamiji. And he was very much surprised. And he brought it back to Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami began to eat it. As soon as he tasted it, he just went into uncontrollable ecstasy. And Rupa Goswami was also eating it along with him, and he was going into uncontrollable ecstasy. Every time they would taste this sweet rice, there were just tears pouring from their eyes. Their hairs were standing on ends. They were trembling. They were just roaring in ecstatic love. Sanatana Goswami said, where did you get this from? Rupa Goswami said, there was a beautiful little cowherd girl that just gave it to me as a donation. Describe, who is this cowherd girl? As he described, Sanatana Goswami understood. It was Srimati Radharani. And he became very much ashamed and sad. You have accepted service from our supremely worshipable Srimati Radharani. It is our eternal position to be the servant of her servants. And you have accepted service from her. And you have caused me to accept service from her. This is against the principles of our Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's will. And they both felt so bad. They wanted to teach us that the mood of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always to be the servant. We don't even want the ecstatic bliss of the spiritual world as much as we want the service of the Lord and His devotees. Of course, although they felt very ashamed, still the taste of the sweet rice was so ecstatic they could not stop eating it. On another occasion, Srila Rupa Goswami had just written his first draft of Lalita Madhava. Lalita Madhava describes the intense separation between Sri Sri Radharani and Krishna. And it describes the separation of the gopis for Krishna especially. So Raghunath Das Goswami, when he was living at Sri Radha Kund, he received that manuscript of Lalita Madhava. He is the Prayojana Acharya, who is teaching by his writings and his example the highest principles of love and separation as an associate of Sri Radharani. And when he read Lalita Madhava, he was so much engrossed in that feeling of separation that Srila Rupa Goswami had so beautifully described that he went mad. There were just tears pouring out of his eyes, and he just held the book Lalita Madhava to his heart, and he was just crying out and crying out. He could not even communicate with anyone. The devotees informed Rupa Goswami of what happened to Raghunath Das Goswami. So Srila Rupa Goswami very quickly wrote another book called the Dana Keli Kaumudi, which describes the ecstatic meeting of Radha and Krishna. And he went directly to Sri Radha Kund, and he said to Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, I want you to read this nice new book that I have written. And as far as that Lalita Madhava, some corrections are necessary, so give it back to me. Raghunath Das Goswami read Dana Keli Kaumudi, describing the beautiful reunion or sambhog of Radha and Krishna, and his heart became completely pacified and filled with joy. Rupa Goswami would perform his bhajan in various places of Braja. He had one bhajan kutir just outside the precincts of Nandagaon. And there was a kadamba tree that he would often do his bhajan and his writings. It is called today Tera Kadamba. And that tree was so much affected by the bhakti of Rupa Goswami. Actually, the pure love of a devotee could melt the hearts of both the animate and inanimate living beings, because the love of such a pure soul directly influences the spirit soul. Of course, the trees of Vrindavan are kalpabriksha. They are intimate associates of Lord Krishna and very blessed. Srila Rupa Goswami would sometimes sit under this tree, and under the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would compose various literatures. When he was composing a section describing the ecstatic lamentation of the separation of Radharani and Krishna from each other, he would be so engrossed that it would influence the tree to be completely engrossed in that same feeling of separation as Rupa Goswami. And all the leaves of that tree would fall like tears. When Srila Rupa Goswami would write about the blissful reunion of Radha and Krishna, the tree sharing the experience of Rupa Goswami's ecstatic love immediately would blossom fruits and flowers in every direction. One time, Sri Rupa Goswami was sitting in his bhajan kutir, and he began to meditate on the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And such a pure-hearted soul, Radha and Krishna would reveal their pastimes within their hearts. This cannot be imitated. This was not something he was artificially concentrating or meditating on. This was something that was just being awakened due to his pure love. So this particular pastime, he was seeing that the Sakis were arranging Sri Radharani to meet with Krishna. And they were decorating her in so many beautiful garments and jewelry. And the Sakis came to notice that Krishna was right behind them watching everything. But Srimati Radharani did not know. So they wanted to inform her. They just finished decorating her hair, and they placed a mirror in front of her face. As she looked into the mirror, behind her she saw the reflection of her beloved Shyam Sundar. And being so much surprised, she became embarrassed, and she began to cover herself. And when the Sakis saw Radharani so embarrassed to see Krishna watching her all this time, they all began to laugh. And when they laughed, Sri Rupa Goswami also began to laugh, uncontrollably laughing. At that time, a Vaishnav came to visit Rupa Goswami. And he came in and offered his obeisances, and Rupa Goswami just laughed. This Vaishnava was very embarrassed. He's not saying anything, he's not acknowledging, he's just laughing. So he didn't know what to think. So he immediately went to Sanatana Goswami and said, I don't know what's happening. I went to see your brother, Sri Rupa Goswami, and as soon as he saw me, he just started laughing at me. Please tell me, what is the truth? Sanatana Goswami knew the heart of Rupa Goswami and explained everything. And then this Vaishnava felt doubly embarrassed. Why am I such a degraded, inconsiderate, fallen soul that I'm so unfortunate that I went to Rupa Goswami at that time? So he was lamenting. Meanwhile, back at the Bhajan Kutir, Rupa Goswami came out of his ecstatic absorption in Krishna's Leela. He looked around in his house and he noticed that a guest had come and that he had neglected to do anything to serve that guest. So in his heart he felt terrible distress that he had made an offense. So he immediately went to Sanatana Goswami to ask, what should I do? And as he went to Sanatana Goswami's house, this particular guest was there. And he fell at the feet of Sri Rupa Goswami and said, I am sorry, I am sorry. Rupa Goswami said, what? He said, I came to your house and you were engrossed in laughing due to the pastimes of Krishna and Sri Radharani, and I did not understand you. And I made an aparad. Please forgive me, please forgive me. And Rupa Goswami started repeatedly offering his obeisances to that Vaishnava. He said, I neglected you. You were a guest. I am a criminal. I am an offender. Please forgive me. This was the humility of Sri Rupa Goswami. This story appears in the Bhakti Ratnakar by Narahari Das, in which, as do many of these stories, he explains how this story shows how whoever we are, we must be very cautious and careful in our dealings with devotees, and we should never neglect them. And if somehow or other we make a mistake in our dealings with another Vaishnava, we should become like Rupa Goswami's example, completely humble and beg forgiveness. When Sri Rupa Goswami became very old, and Srila Sanatana Goswami had already left this world, he was living in Vrindavan. Actually, so many of the desires of Rupa Goswami were being transcendently fulfilled by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Govinda Dev was the life and soul of Rupa Goswami, one of the disciples of Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, whose name was the Raj Man Singh of Rajasthan. He was also a close associate of the Emperor Akbar. He had built the beautiful, beautiful 7-story temple for Sri Sri Radha Govinda. In fact, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami loved Srila Rupa Goswami so much. Not only did he build that temple for his deity, but he offered beautiful clothing and ornaments for Radha Govinda, which included a flute and earrings shaped like sharks. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he would never hear the fault of a devotee. If anyone, for any reason, was criticizing a Vaishnava, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would say, I cannot hear. The fact that he's serving Krishna is all I know. After Sanatana Goswami's departure, Sri Rupa Goswami was living with the other Goswamis. They always wanted to see the deity of Gopal. Gopal was the Murti originally installed by Vajranabh on Govardhan Hill, which was rediscovered by Madhavendra Puri. But Lord Chaitanya, when he came to Vrindavan, he would never touch his foot to Govardhan Hill, because he considered Govardhan Hill to be non-different than the body of Krishna. So Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not go on the top of the hill to visit Gopal. But Gopal was longing to see Lord Chaitanya just as Lord Chaitanya was longing to see Gopal. So by his own Yogamaya potency, he had people run to the village and say, the Muslims are coming! So they took the deity down from the hill secretly and they brought him to Mathura, where they hid him secretly in the house of the youngest son of Vallabhacharya, whose name is Vittaleshwar. When Rupa Goswami and his associates found out about that, they all went to Mathura. Lokanath Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Dasa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Kashishwar, they were all there together with Rupa Goswami, worshipping Sri Gopal, having wonderful kirtan, dancing and chanting the holy name. For 1 month, the devotees, all together, in the intimacy of each other's association worshipped Gopal. And then they realized there was no Muslims. It was another rumor. It was the pastime of the Lord to reciprocate with the love of Sri Rupa Goswami. They brought Gopal back to Govardhan Hill. After Srila Rupa Goswami disappeared from this world, Srila Jiva Goswami was naturally accepted as the leader of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He personally, along with the other associates of Lord Chaitanya, arranged the beautiful samadhi in the courtyard of Sri Radha Damodar temple. In fact, Srila Prabhupada considered this place so important that in 1972 he called his devotees from all over the world to come to Vrindavan during the month of Kartik, where each day he was personally delivering lectures from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or Nectar of Devotion, right at the Samadhi Mandir of Sri Rupa Goswami in the courtyard of Radha Damodar. Who can imagine the ecstatic bliss that Srila Prabhupada must have experienced when he brought devotees from all over the world to be sitting at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, hearing his most blessed, merciful book, Nectar of Devotion. Srinivasacharya, longing to meet Lord Chaitanya and his associates, went to Puri only to find that Lord Chaitanya and his associates had already disappeared. But in a dream, Gadadhar Pandit told him to go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Rupa and Sanatan. When he was bathing in the Jamuna in Mathura at Vishram Ghat, he heard the news from some Brahmins speaking amongst each other that Rupa and Sanatan Goswami had both disappeared from the world. Srinivasacharya was plunged in grief. He decided, I should simply take my life. But then Rupa and Sanatan Goswami appeared to him in a dream. They told him that you should go to Vrindavan and you should take shelter of Sri Jiva Goswami and learn from him the scriptures. You should take initiation from Gopal Bhatta Goswamis, because we are living in them. Simultaneously, Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami appeared to both Jiva Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami and told Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Rupa Goswami said, you should initiate Srinivasacharya. He is a very dear devotee. When Srinivasacharya came to Vrindavan, he understood it was the mercy of Sri Rupa and Sanatan. And he also cried in ecstatic love of gratitude when he came to the Samadhi Mandir of Sri Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami wrote many books, of which 16 books are very, very prominent. Amongst them, Srila Prabhupada has translated Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Upadeshamrita. There's also Lalita Madhava, Vidagdha Madhava. These books are great treasure houses which describe from the most beginning stages to the most elevated stages how we can progress in Krishna consciousness. Adosha tata sadhu sangota bhajana kriya. Rupa Goswami has composed this beautiful verse that at the very beginning there's a little faith. Krishna reciprocates with that faith, and from within our heart directs us to the association of devotees. In that association we learn the science of bhakti. Then we approach a spiritual master, and he initiates us and puts us on the principle in the category of the Vaidhi Bhakti, where we follow the regulative principles of sadhana. It is called bhajana kriya. by chanting a fixed number of rounds every day, by following the regulative principles, and always being engaged in devotional service. Gradually our hearts become cleansed, anartha-navritti, and all of the unwanted material desires and misconceptions are removed from our hearts. And then, through that gradual purification, we achieve nishtha, or very deep, strong faith in Krishna, in the path of bhakti. By continuing in our spiritual advancement, by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, ruchi, or the higher taste of the sweetness of devotional service, awakens in our heart. And then we develop very, very strong attachment to Krishna. Such attachment to Krishna that all other attachments become utterly insignificant. When we continue to cultivate devotional service under the guidance of Guru and Gauranga, in the association of Vaishnavas, gradually that ashakti becomes bhava, the preliminary state of love of God. And by the gradual cultivation of hearing and chanting, bhava becomes prem. In prema bhakti, ecstatic love of God, and the revelation of our eternal nature in the spiritual world is gradually revealed. Serving the Lord in Vrindavan, in Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, or Madhuryaras. Srila Rupa Goswami has brought us from the most preliminary state to the ultimate achievement of all spiritual quests, the treasure of prema bhakti, in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Srila Rupa Goswami composed over 100,000 verses. In the Leela of Vrindavan, Srila Rupa Goswami is Sri Rupa Manjari. Our great acharyas have given us the explanation that the only means by which we could truly find the real spiritual satisfaction of the heart is to become the servant of the servant of the servant of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna, Sri Radharani. Of Sri Radharani's expanded counterparts, the Sakis are her own most intimate servants. The leader of the Sakis is Lalita Saki. And the direct, intimate assistants of the Sakis are the Manjaris. And the leader of all the Manjaris is Sri Rupa Manjari. And the acharyas of our line are the servants of the servants of the servants of Sri Rupa Manjari. It is through the mercy of Sri Rupa Manjari that we can achieve the purification, first of all, of our gross material state now, and ultimately given a place as her own servant and assistant in the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada has often told us that we are to never forget the glory of this great sampradaya that he has given to us. The Gaudiya Sampradaya, or the Rupanuga Sampradaya. So, today we are making some small attempt to speak some little partial portion of a drop of the glories of Sri Rupa Goswami. And we should very carefully and sincerely aspire to be the servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Rupa Goswami. How do we do this? By simply accepting the Guru Parampara, hearing submissively, carrying out the instructions, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in his most profound, mature realizations of the very essence of the heart of his Guru Maharaj, of Rupa Goswami and of Lord Chaitanya, he has presented us Krishna consciousness. He has presented the perfect and pure process by which we could all achieve the loving mercy of all the previous acharyas. By chanting the holy names, by serving this great mission, by distributing the books which are so much inspired by the teachings of Rupa Goswami, by simply assisting Srila Prabhupada in spreading Krishna consciousness, by simply performing our sadhana with great attention and sincerity, hearing the glories of the Lord and chanting his name, by carefully following the teachings of Prabhupada, to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to offer all respect to others and expect none in return, to constantly chant the holy names, to surrender our lives to the mission of Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada's teachings are very simple but very complete and totally profound. By simply pleasing Srila Prabhupada and being the servant of his servants, we are being given the access to the complete, unlimited, all-merciful, compassionate blessings of Srila Rupa Goswami and all of our acharyas. Sri Rupa Goswami ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gaur Bhakta Brinda ki, Nitai Go Premanandi. I am sorry for taking so much of your time. Thank you very much. Shri Giriraj Maharaj has patiently been tolerating like a tree, like a Kalpa Vriksha tree, for all these long hours. Would you like to speak something, please?
Of course, the Radha Damodar temple is a very sacred place. It has the Pratibhu Murtis of Shri Shri Radha Damodar and other deities of other acharyas. The Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Samadhi of Sri Bhugarbha Goswami. And the Samadhi of Srila Jiva Goswami. As well as Pushpa Samadhi of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the rooms of Srila Prabhupada, or Bhajan Kutir of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said that although generally devotees consider Shri Radha Kund to be the most sacred place in the universe. He considers the Samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami to be the most sacred place. And he used to see the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami from his rooms. And he got inspiration from Srila Rupa Goswami specifically to go to the West and write his books. And following the order of Srila Rupa Goswami and of course his own spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada did leave Vrindavan, the Radha Damodar temple, and came to America and then traveled throughout the world. Coming to the Samadhi of Sri Jiva Goswami, we remember how intensely he loved his gurus, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and how staunchly he served them, and especially how he defended them when, directly or indirectly, they were being attacked or minimized. And of course, because he was such a great scholar and so brilliant, he could defeat all opposition. So of course we also want to defend Srila Prabhupada from persons who directly or indirectly attack him or minimize him. And therefore we have to know his teachings. Of course we cannot be anywhere close to what Jiva Goswami was, but then again we also don't have to confront Digvijay Pandits either. But if we just study Srila Prabhupada's books again and again and discuss them, we will get sufficient strength to defend the philosophy of Krishna consciousness from all opposition. And as Srila Prabhupada said, that to eulogize the spiritual master is good. It is our duty to do so. But more important is to fight for the spiritual master, as Jiva Goswami fought for Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswamis. As His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj mentioned, Srila Prabhupada translated in a summary study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and verse by verse Shri Upadeshamrita, and he did great service to Rupa Goswami by making his teachings available in the English language, and then from the English language Srila Prabhupada's translations have been rendered into practically every language in the world. And thus Srila Prabhupada has engaged his followers in serving Srila Rupa Goswami by following his instructions in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Upadeshamrita, and distributing Srila Rupa Goswami's teachings. And thus Srila Prabhupada is connecting us with Srila Rupa Goswami through service, following the instructions and spreading the teachings. And that is actually the duty of the spiritual master, to engage the disciples in the service of the previous spiritual masters, so that they can get the mercy of the previous spiritual masters. Srila Prabhupada has done that for us, connected us with his Guru Maharaj, with all of the previous acharyas, and especially Srila Rupa Goswami. Actually, Srila Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And in some of the more important places in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada not only summarizes Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but he actually also includes the translation or summary of the commentary of Jiva Goswami. So, truly we are getting everything through Srila Prabhupada. And the best way to serve the previous acharyas, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is just to serve Srila Prabhupada. And all of you have the good fortune of being engaged by one of Srila Prabhupada's dearmost servants, and by his mercy we are getting the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami and the previous acharyas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. After hearing this most inspired and genuine expression of His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj's love for Srila Prabhupada, I think we should celebrate by having Guru Puja for Srila Prabhupada.